Welcome to the Market Enthusiast podcast, where Good Life's Noah Brooks, Chief Market Strategist, and Chris Needs, Senior Research Analyst, break down today's topics, covering their impact on the economy and personal finance in a fun, easy-to-understand way for investors of all levels.
Welcome back, everybody, to another installment of the Market Enthusiast. Of course, I'm Noah Brooks, and with me is Chris Needs.
Hello, everyone.
I'm going to sound like a broken record right now, but we are again at all-time highs in the stock market. Dow's at all-time highs, S&P 500's at all-time highs. I mean, it just keeps moving. How did we get here?
There's lots of good themes. We haven't had the normal August-September seasonality. It's been a nice course since that rapid recovery from April. And while Q3 has slowed down in that ascent, it has still been low volatility.
Yeah. Last time we were sitting in here doing this, we were talking about Nvidia reporting. And since then, we've had some blowout reports and some news that have kind of changed things on the tech side. Yesterday was Oracle, right?
Huge report.
Huge report.
Larry Ellison temporarily, apparently for a few hours, moved ahead of Elon Musk for world's richest man, but they reported 77% year-over-year cloud growth in terms of revenue, 383% increase year-over-year in contracted revenue.
383% growth.
I saw the stock up as much as 42% the next day after earnings. They were already, I think, the 12th largest company in S&P 500. It was a big day.
I would love to see Ellison and Musk in a celebrity boxing match. I think that would be great. The two of the world's richest guys just duking it out.
And his son, and Larry Ellison's son, David, is now making a push, I guess, for Warner Brothers as well.
Oh, is that right?
The whole Paramount deal that they just closed out. Making moves. Maybe you got a little loan from daddy.
Yeah, maybe. But it's interesting, though, when you look at the market caps of these two companies, Oracle is significantly smaller. I think it's like $690 billion market cap, where Tesla's $3.4 trillion. And when you think about it from a perspective of, okay, these guys were the same wealth over time, Ellison owned so much more of Oracle.
43%, I think I saw.
Yeah.
But how old is Oracle? It's like 90s, late 80s?
I think Larry Ellison started himself in late 70s.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, that is just one of the reasons why we're at an all-time high today. Certainly there's others. The Nvidia report seemed to be pretty good. I mean,
the reaction wasn't strong, but the report was good. It affirmed the AI story, which was, of course, what everyone was waiting on. And the numbers were still big. They didn't beat by leaps and bounds, like 2 or 3 years ago they might have. And the stock sort of temporarily reacted as such. But it was a good report.
Yeah. What else is driving some of this market? I mean, right now we have growth that's up about 14% for the year. Value, I know it's still behind a little bit, but your dividend payers, they're up around 11%. Small caps are starting to get involved. We've been talking about that for a while. They're up close to 5%. Depending on which index you look at. The Russell 2000 is up almost 10. The S&P 600 small cap is up almost 5. And mid caps are up 6.25. I mean, everything seems to be working. And then you have the bond market.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. You had some 10-year yields drop down a little bit. I think they cracked below 4%. But that's wild because just it seemed like a month ago we were riding much higher towards 5%.
Yeah, I definitely thought the 10 was going to hit 5 before it hit 4.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that was just in the cards.
We got some weak data points, and then yields reacted as they do in employment and claims and things like that are cool, we'll say.
Well, yeah, we'll cover some of that stuff. Was there anything else company-wise that you were looking at?
We did have the big report a couple weeks ago. Alphabet won their court case, we'll say. They don't have to divest Chrome and Android. so they get to keep the business together. We'll chalk that up as a win for them.
Sure.
They have
they rallied. I mean,
yeah,
they
rallied
forward.
I think 7% the day after that ruling. So we'll chalk that up as a win for them. And they have they have 5 business units earning over $30 billion in revenue.
That's crazy.
So you could say those would all be S&P 500 companies. So they're a conglomerate. There may be a little bit of discount. And coincidentally, I'm reading Titan, Life of John D. Rockefeller.
Yeah.
And we all know his story, right?
Sure. Standard Oil.
So 1890 Sherman Antitrust Act broke him up in 1911.
Yeah.
And he went from being worth about 300 million at that time, and they broke him up. Obviously, that's a bad thing, right?
You would think so.
But it wasn't. Tripled his wealth in the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So everyone who doesn't know Standard Oil was a basket of valuable assets that clearly had a huge conglomerate discount because of what happened after. He went from being worth 300 million in 1911 to 900 million in 1913. So think of Exxon, ConocoPhillips, U.S. Arma BP. Who am I missing? There's a couple others in there.
I mean, Marathon is one of them. I mean, they were Chevron, right? They were broken up into, I think, over 30 different companies. There was like Standard Oil of Ohio and Richfield, I think Atlantic Richfield, which actually was Standard Oil of Ohio. But there was 30 different companies, and then over time they merged into other companies, and you have these big majors now.
Exxon itself was the most valuable company in the world for over the years since that time, maybe 17 some years, at least since the mid late 80s.
I remember the 90s,
yeah.
Right? In the top 10 in the S&P 500, there was Aflac, GE, Exxon, and they always volleyed for, the top 3, top 4 at that point in time. And now it's kind of, I mean, the energy, we talk about electricity and things here, but energy is such a small portion of the S&P 500. I think it's less than 4% right at the moment, where tech is obviously a much larger portion than energy is. I don't know that that's ever going to really change.
Doesn't look like it right now.
No, it doesn't look like it. So what did you make of that, the book on the breakup or anything?
It just goes through his whole life. So his beginning life was rough. Apologies. He was introverted. His father was in and out of the house for weeks and months at a time. His mother basically raised him, and I would say maybe introverted is the way he was. So big analysis geek, down to the cent. He was maybe a home bookkeeper for the family finances.
Did he use Excel?
Don't think he did, but he got his start in commodities trading, and then that naturally evolved in Titusville, Pennsylvania, when the discovery of oil and its potential uses came about. He was in the Cleveland area at the time and slowly shifted into the oil game, started buying up refineries, and spitballed from there.
Yeah. Did you finish the book?
I'm not through the book yet. I'm about 250 pages in on about a 700-page book.
Jeez.
So we'll get there.
Yeah.
I have time. I did just get a new book I want to read, though. Da Vinci Code author Dan Brown, one of my favorite authors, just had a new book come out on the 9th, Secret of Secrets. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I might have to pause my John D. Rockefeller reading. So I didn't finish the book yet. Hefty book. It's about 700 pages. So I was reading a little bit last night, and then the wife wanted to put on a show. So we've already watched it, but started rewatching Scandal. I wasn't too into it. But
wait, you put down your book to rewatch Scandal?
I did. I didn't really I didn't read the book. I put it down, but then end up, screening. And,
there
and
are
scrolling.
So many better show. Well, I have not seen Scandal, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, but there's so many good things on right now. What was the thing that we watched a few weeks ago? Mickey 17. It's about bioprinting, and essentially they tap into your brain. They take all of your data And then as your body dies, they can give you a new body, and you don't even remember you might remember it, but so it's about moving through outer space and moving to different, taking the civilization with you and moving to a new planet. And they just print bodies.
Carbon copies.
Yeah, carbon copies. That's Mickey 17. Highly recommend it. Oh, the other one. And we were a little bit late on this, but people are talking about it. The Unknown Number, the high school catfish. Did you hear about it?
Yeah, I've heard of that. That's creepy.
It is
strange.
Yeah. I won't give any spoilers, but if you have an opportunity to watch it, it's about this young girl in high school. I think she was 13 when it started, and she started getting texts, really crazy stuff. And essentially someone was stalking her, and it turns out in the end, you can't even imagine how the end is. It's really nutty. I would definitely check that out. And then we just came on the 20-year anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. That's on Netflix. I think it's Come Hell or High Water. You start thinking about it. Where were you for Katrina? Do you remember?
I mean, I just remember through the guise of football and like how they had to not play there, obviously, and everybody was in the Superdome. That was sort of the refuge, I guess.
Yeah. Ailish and I think it was my first trip out of the country. We were in Italy, and we were in a hotel and watching like CNN International or something, or Fox International, and they're showing these pictures of the devastation. So we go and we watch this on Netflix for a 20-year marker, if you will. And the thing that I didn't remember about it was, so it was a hurricane. It was a Category 5 hurricane that came through, and it did a lot of damage to the area. And I think there were some deaths with just the wind speed, trees falling, houses being damaged. But it wasn't all that bad. And it wasn't until a day or two after the hurricane left, was well on shore, hundreds of miles inshore, and the levees broke, right? That is, that's when the water came in. That's where the flooding happened. That's where people were trapped at the Superdome, trapped at the convention center. So,
most of the cities below sea level too, so it probably just sat there.
Well, the thing that as you're watching this, it brings back memories of the storm and watching it for sure. But the thing that kind of freaked me out is what I didn't remember was a lot of people died in their attic. And you say that and you're like, well, why would people die in your attic? But if there's water coming into your house, I think the natural reaction is to move to higher ground.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that couldn't necessarily get to their roof, so they're going to go up into their attic. But the water just kept coming and coming and coming. So it details some of that stuff. Wow. And can you imagine being trapped in the attic, the water rising? And if you're an older person, you don't have a chainsaw or any type of breaker bar.
Yeah, break your way out.
Your way out. I mean, you're trapped in the attic. It's incredible. So I would forget the scandal.
Yeah.
I mean, we're living in the golden age of television, and you're rewatching something from 10 years ago.
I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lex.
I would be remiss. I mean, we're talking about 20 years from Katrina, but we are 24 years, and I think people are going to be hearing this the day after 9/11. So I always like to take a moment to talk about that. Where were you for 9/11? You remember?
5th grade, Mr. Beletz's social studies class.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a new advisor, fairly new advisor, a few years in the industry at Prudential Securities in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I mean, obviously the whole situation happened. The stock exchange closed down. And I remember leaving the office probably at like 11 o'clock, maybe noon, and just looking up, and it was this clear, gorgeous September day with these big, puffy, like Simpsons-like clouds. And it's something that I don't think I'll ever forget that. I mean, there's lots of things we can talk about 9/11, but that for me is really the one memory that just resonates over and over and over again. I won't go down a rabbit hole on this, but we don't get attacked from external forces all that often. It certainly does happen. Sometimes we get attacked by internal forces like Oklahoma City bombing or something. But Osama bin Laden, his stated goal was to draw us into an endless war and essentially to bankrupt us.
Yeah.
And, we're depending on who you talk to, we're not bankrupt at the moment. But the cost of those wars, I mean, he definitely helped run up our debt. Some of the estimates out there up until 2022, the cost of all of that stuff, like the direct war, having men fighting in the desert, the homeland security, the veterans care, interest on the spending. I mean, it's upwards of $6 trillion. And I just think to myself, what would this country look like? It'll probably look similar, but you don't really know what would be different if that hadn't have happened. And you could say, well, it would have happened at a later date or some other situation would have happened. But I mean, that really changed the course of history pretty dramatically.
Yeah. And our perceptions of safety, like you said, the homeland doesn't get attacked, Yeah.
Well, that's all I'm going to say about that today. Let's flip back to economics for a little bit. We were here a few days before the jobs report came out. So last Friday, the jobs report came out. Not so great.
Yeah, 22,000 jobs. We revised June back to negative. So it was a negative month. And then we had right on the back of that, the BLS annual revisions from March of 24 to March of 25.
Yeah.
911,000 jobs that weren't really there. That sort of just disappeared.
So, we did talk about this, and you and I debated all the time. So these job numbers that the BLS comes out with are done on a survey basis. But so now they go back in this revision, they're going back and getting the state tax data to line up with their jobs numbers. And, based on that state tax data, how many people an employee is, or excuse me, an employer is paying state taxes on. And I think to myself, well, why do we have to go backwards? Why can't that be a monthly number that they're getting?
We have the technology, don't we?
I mean, you can see, I'm telling you, when I was in school, I worked at Staples. I'm talking 1993. And so however many years, like 30, 32 years ago, they could tell you up to the moment on their system in 1993, how much was being sold, what the margin for the day was, what the average sale for the day was. And we can't tell how many people get jobs.
We probably have different systems between the states and the federal system. So the federal is a survey versus the quote unquote hard data. When you get it from the states on the tax data, that I guess feeds through to what determines this revision number. But yeah, I don't think there's a good excuse either. I think there should be a way to link those up in more real time.
I mean, you should be able to see by the day how many people are laid off or added.
Yeah.
And maybe not the day, maybe the week. Shoot, if Staples could do it in 1993 for the store, come on, guys. This is silly. Like the survey thing, I think it's good to ask the employers, but don't we want the hard data?
Yeah.
Don't the economists, doesn't the Fed itself want the hard data? They would make much better decisions instead of going backwards and saying, well, we're actually going to lower the monthly jobs from instead of being 170,000 created, it's actually only 95,000 a month were created.
Is that what we were loosely calculating it out and ended up being
75,000 jobs a month were actually not created.
Yeah.
So in 2024, it was monthly number was 170,000 jobs.
So remember last year, it was in August, I think the quote unquote SOM rule indicator was triggered just for 1 month. And how that's a herald of a potential recession on the horizon previously was a perfect indicator. And if we had known those revisions then, we would have been way above the SOM rule.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We've been operating under this perception that the labor market's, I guess, a little bit tighter than it actually has been. We had the JOLTS report come out a couple weeks ago think it was 7.18 million jobs open versus 7.37 jobs were expected to be open in the job openings report. So for the first time in a while, we have more unemployed people than there is job openings.
So my concern on that is back in 21 and 22, it was essentially there was 2 open jobs for every 1 person looking. And so it became a situation where the people, it was essentially an employees market.
Demanding higher wages because they could pick between a couple
absolutely
employers.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the wage inflation comes in. I'm not saying we shouldn't, people shouldn't be compensated fairly, anything like that, but that's where a lot of the inflation numbers come from.
The job quits were high because they're just job hopping.
Everybody was job hopping. Now we're in this situation where the hopping is, I don't want to say it's dead, but it is really calmed down pretty dramatically. Instead of it being 2 jobs open for every 1 person looking, it's more like 1 job open for every person looking. But this JOLT, Job Open and Labor Turnover Survey, are they using good data?
Yeah.
What if it turns out that there's only a half a job open for everybody looking? Now,
we heard back when there were that huge outnumber of job openings per person that some of these weren't real jobs. They were like teasers out there where they were literally looking for like the optimal person. They didn't need to fill a seat imminently. So like how true is that of a job opening? If you're just waiting for the perfect candidate and you could wait 2 years to get them.
Sure.
Maybe that shouldn't show up.
So
in that
just
list.
keeping
but they can't filter that out.
The job, the requisition open,
right?
Just indefinitely,
exactly,
and counting that when the person, they're not actually looking to hire someone. It's kind of like, oh, if this perfect person falls into my lap, yeah, we're hiring them, and that's a little bit concerning because you would think if the Federal Reserve had this type of data real time, that maybe they would have lowered a lot.
They might have kept cutting December.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the last cut was December. We haven't seen anything. I think with these revisions, and I'll still say that the Federal Reserve is stuck in a really bad spot because inflation has been ramping up a little bit, and we'll cover wholesale inflation. We had some numbers come out this week. Inflation is, it's not at their 2% target rate. It doesn't look like it's going to get there anytime soon. So naturally, they're not in a position where they want to cut. But then you have this job situation where they may need to cut. I always have to remind myself that the Federal Reserve is okay with the economy having a little bit of pain.
Yeah.
Right. They were okay with it, and rightly so, raising interest rates to cut inflation. I do think they were late to the game on that. And they probably are a little bit late in lowering. And I say a little bit. I mean, I don't think they're a year late or anything like that, but they probably could have lowered in July. They probably could have done it a month or 2 prior to it. But now you have this massive revision. I'm not saying that they have egg on their face, but they might have some egg on their face.
We talked about just before the last monthly jobs report, Powell said 2 days prior how strong it was.
Yeah.
And then we got this awful jobs report and we're like, how did he not have insight into that? And I mean, this is just furthering that point.
Yeah. Well, the White House and certainly the administration, I don't want to say they're going to have a field day with it, but I mean, they'll
say, I told you so.
Right. Yeah. There's no question about it. So while we're talking about jobs, the BLS actually did come out with a report. Now, we can make fun of the BLS. I hope this report is accurate. It seems like it could be more accurate because it's not hard data. It's more what the expectation is. But they came out with a report of the type of jobs that are going to be in demand for the next, let's say, 5 or 6 years, and what the percentage growth of these jobs are. Now, this is a trick question because I know you know the answer. What's the number one job growth at 50% annualized rate?
I'm thinking of it more of in a sector's perspective. I'm looking at tech. Obviously, we're in the midst of an AI boom, and they're probably very highly compensated. I don't know the answer of what yours actually has. I did my own separate research, but tech, healthcare, we do have aging people, and then still you're going to have skilled labor that can't be replaced by computers.
Yeah, no question about it. Your plumbers, right? Your HVAC
laborers,
techs. Yeah,
like me. People who replace your windshield. I needed to go into Safe Flight to get my windshield fixed recently.
You don't think that could be done with a robot?
Definitely could be. It is probably done by a robot in the actual shops.
Yeah, no question about it. So the number one job expectation of job growth, and it may be not aggregate, but as a percentage, is wind turbine service tech. They're expecting an annualized growth rate up until 2034 of a 50% annualized number.
So renewable tech.
Well, that one, that is definitely renewable. But the second one, and it falls to your sector, is photovoltaic installer, like solar installers. I mean, doesn't that tell us something about where we're headed?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I when COVID happened, we talked about change happens slow and then it happens fast. And obviously there's electric cars out there and they're coming online and you're starting to see them. And yeah, everybody's like, oh, maybe I'll get one, or maybe I won't, or maybe I'll have a half of one, you know, in my garage, not a half a car, but you know, some of the car is. But at some point, they're going to drop on us a car that can be charged in 3 minutes, that has 1,500 miles of range. And you're going to be like, how can I beat that?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, this is an investment advice, but these jobs out there are definitely in the renewables. Now, as far as sectors, what else do you think? Healthcare, right? Nurse practitioners, annualized rate of 40% until 34 in terms of job growth. So not so much in doctors, but you need those people that are like a doctor that can write a prescription, whether it's a minute clinic or at a doctor's office.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where the job growth is.
Yeah.
Now you did another, you didn't look at the BLS numbers, but you looked at some numbers based on what would happen and what the change that would occur as the robotization and as AI took over some of the jobs. What do you have on yours?
So yeah, I looked at post AI revolution. So the results may have been slightly skewed, but it was, I think 8 out of 10 were tech jobs, and it's varying levels of data scientists probably combing through the LLM data and prepping it or altering it so that it's readable and high quality for the system to read and give a reliable output. You had software engineers, you know, all those types of jobs, but then the other one was healthcare that was represented even in that one.
Yeah. I saw something the other day where one of the hotel chains, and it wasn't a high end, it wasn't like a Marriott or a Hilton, but it wasn't a super low, like a Super 8 or something. It was kind of the mid-tier hotel chain was experimenting with check-ins where you were talking to a screen, you were talking to a big iPad, and a person, in this particular case, they were offshore, but you would go into the hotel, and you would check in, and your person wasn't a person. Well, they were a person. Yeah. They're just not in front of you.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, at some of the hotels I've been at recently, you can check in on your phone and you can opt into using your phone as a key if they have the right, you know, stuff there.
You bypass check-in completely.
Just like with my car, my phone would be my key to get into my room.
Yeah. Well, think about it at the airport, and I don't think they're ever going to go to this at the airport, but I mean, nowadays it's facial recognition that's going to get you in and out. And I guess at the airport, I'm great with that. If it saves me a few minutes walking through the TSA line or the
you ever see someone
line,
throw a fit that it's like, I'm not letting it take my photo. I'm not letting that happen.
If you're worried about them taking a photo of you
they already
at
have
the
it.
airport,
they already have
they have you a million times over.
Yeah.
Every possible piece of information that you have is out there, probably available for sale. I have seen it relatively recently. A lady in front of us was, she wasn't having it, and she was allowed to opt out of it.
Yeah, I saw someone freak out about it too, and the guy was just like, "Okay, go ahead."
I think they don't get worked up. The full pat down though. I was going to call her a Karen, but I do know some Karens out there, and they are getting tired of people calling them Karen. But that's their name. How about the Karen ball stealer from the other day, the Phillies?
Oh yeah, that was real awkward. I felt bad for that kid. But then the dad's reaction was really bizarre too. He was like,
yeah, it was strange. Like he was scared that she came over and took it back.
That was really weird. Come on, you're an adult at a baseball game. what do you need that ball for?
Now, I've never caught a ball at a game, but I've been to some Phillies games where you're out, in left field and a ball flies. And it's basically every man for themselves at that point, or woman.
It'll hit off of 3-4 people before someone gets it.
But apparently this lady thought because it hit her seat that somehow she was entitled to this ball. I don't know if you've seen
first time at a baseball game.
Yeah, that's exactly what it seems like. I don't know if her name's Karen, but she's definitely a Karen. Did you see the memes that they made of her?
I saw a few.
Where she turns around after taking the ball from the guy, and she still slowly starts to morph into Golem.
Yeah.
Right?
My precious.
Oh, man. And so I actually heard the guy, because he's a Philadelphia native. I heard him speak on one of the news shows, and he asked for everybody to calm down and not to take it out on her. He specifically said, I don't want anybody to go into her house and rough her up.
Oh my.
And I thought, that seems weird. Are you actually telling us that you do want that to happen?
The kid made out anyway, though. You see, he got like a signed bat and got to meet whoever hit the home run. I forget this.
But I mean, if you're sitting, and I'm not talking about your kid, but if you're at a game and a ball comes to you and there's a kid next to you and you get it, are you obliged to give that little kid the ball?
I would. I mean, it's a baseball. Unless it's like Barry Bonds' 762nd home run where you're going to get like 30, some crazy dollar amount for it. Yeah, if it's just a home run ball at a random game or like a fly ball. Even worse, a foul ball.
Yeah, foul ball.
You give that ball away.
Right.
Give it to the kid.
I don't think this lady did herself any good. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it.
I felt really bad. So earlier this year, we took Nolan to his first baseball game. It was just the Rang Phillies right in town here. And a ball went foul. It was going way behind us, but the crazy spin of the ball came right back. I had Livia right next to me. And I said to Lex, cover Livia because it's coming back. And I went to catch it, elbowed Alexa right in the head, getting my left arm over because I had it around Livia. And I went, elbowed her right in the head. Yeah. Didn't get the ball. It just crushed my hand and bounced away, and I didn't go run over and demand it. Hit my hand.
Right.
I have a son over here.
If it comes to you and you get it, it's yours.
Yeah.
If you want to give it to a kid, do it. But you can't hunt the ball back down and say it touched my seat.
Definitely not. No. But no one says to me right after when I didn't catch. He says, "Dad, I thought you were good at football." I'm like, "Football? What?"
He's a young.
You're
kid.
Killing me 2 ways over here,
He's
son.
A young kid. He'll get it. But back to these jobs, one of the things that we saw in the last inflation report was that fruits and veg had gone up by close to 40%. It was like 39%. And you think about it, most of those, I don't want to say picking, but most of the jobs are labor intensive, depending on what
agricultural labor intensive jobs.
Yeah, actually picking strawberries is very labor intensive. That is going to be robotized at some point in the future.
Yep.
I mean, there is no question about it. I saw over the last 2 weeks, John Deere bought a robotic spraying company that uses artificial intelligence to track where it goes. So now we can have a whole debate about what we put on our foods. I think that's worthy of a debate. I don't know that we'll have it on this.
We don't have the scientific know-how to
I
speak
don't know. Maybe
eloquently.
We should get somebody on here to do that. But they're investing a lot of money in technology that will allow farmers. They're going to buy this thing from John Deere. They're going to put it out in their field. It's going to do all the work, and there's not going to be a single person there except to maybe put fuel in the tractor and maintain it, right, once it does its job.
You'll have photovoltaic wafers on there and solar panels. It'll just keep running itself.
I don't know about that one. That would require a lot of PV right on the machine. But I mean, anything. I don't care if it's driving a bus, driving a plane, taxi. I mean, all of these jobs where you're basically just, especially in the field, you have a guy or a gal just driving this tractor back and forth. Why can't that be done automated? Why can't that be automated? It's going to be. So this company was called GUSS, G-U-S-S. And apparently they've been testing some of their automated sprayers for,
which look like Cybertrucks.
They do look like a giant Cybertruck, right?
Those, yeah.
So they've been testing it for a while, and now they've actually went in and bought 100% of the company. And, Caterpillar is another one that I suspect you're going to see some of that robotization and artificial intelligence. Years ago, some of the GPS manufacturers were on fire because you started to see them on bulldozers and earth moving equipment. And it was really helpful when you're building to know exactly where you are. If you have a large plot, I'm not talking like a little 1 acre plot, but a large plot, like you need to know where you are. Yeah. And they can pinpoint that stuff down to the foot with those GPS on the tops of the machines. Mm-hmm. So it's just really kind of crazy what's going on in this world. Brings me to something else here. So a lot of times people say, I go, how are you going to get to the city, or what are you doing? And I wind up saying, I took an Uber chopper. And they look at me like, Uber has choppers? I'm like, no, I'm just kidding. Turns out
there's a company that does that.
Well, in New York City, and obviously we don't live there, we're closer to Philadelphia, but in New York and in London, there's a company called Blade. They have a spot in Midtown that they pick you up by the river. I think it's 34th Street. I've never done it. Turns out, so this Blade will take you to the airports, right? It'll take you to JFK or LaGuardia or EWR, and it's like a 7-minute trip. And I think it's $200 a seat. And if you live in the city,
actually doesn't sound like a bad deal,
right? And it's a little extra for luggage,
yeah.
But you can take your luggage with you on the helicopter. Well, it turns out Uber bought Blade, and now Uber has Uber Chopper, and you're going to be able to hit the button for Uber and get a chopper, and not anywhere, but like at designated locations. They're also partnering with the aviation company Joby that makes electric vertical and takeoff. You want to call them hovercraft. They're not choppers per se, but they're going to be doing it where, and again, I don't know if they're going to have a pilot, but it's going to be just all electric, 7 minutes to the airport. And man, I hope it comes to Philadelphia, right? Taking it from the train station right to the airport.
Yeah.
Shoot, I hope it comes to Reading. I think that'd be phenomenal. I would pay up for it.
Joby stock was going wild for a bit there. Yeah. So I'm not surprised that there was some takeover interest.
Joby, Archer, another one.
Archer is another one.
These aviation startups. I mean, I don't know that our future, at least in the next, let's say, 5 years, is going to be filled with flying cars. But in 10 or 20, where this battery tech is able to
finally get the Jetsons.
Yeah.
That predicted
no
ago.
Nuclear cars, just electric batteries.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. How do we want to close up today? Any stats out there that we should relay?
I think just reiterating, we had those inflation numbers out. PPI came in really cool. So you had called into where we're at with the BLS and the data. Saw that PPI number, is like, maybe there is a finger on the data, and it came in really cool, 2.6 versus 3.3 expected year over year.
Yeah, month over month was negative
0.1. Yeah. And I'm like, oh boy, that seems interesting. That could be a good or a bad thing. Sure. Also, for the record, it's not just good that it was low. But then CPI came in, wasn't hot. It was, we'll call it warm.
Yeah.
0.4 versus 0.3 month over month. And I think the market was mostly happy. It was mostly up today on that. We're talking on Wednesday. At least when we came in here, it was up a little bit. So I think they're happy it wasn't a larger increase based on, where we've seen trends. Beef, coffee were a couple of the hotter areas. You had already mentioned fruits. They weren't up as much as they were previously, but they were still up. And I would say the biggest negative component would be gasoline was still coming in later and pulling down the CPI number a little bit.
I'm loving the gas numbers.
Yeah.
I put premium in this thing, so it's like $3.99.
Yeah.
I'm feeling the love, man. I definitely
free handle. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, all of this stuff in the end, I think the leading indicator that you can count on, of course, is the market. And stock market, as we're standing here talking today, is at all-time highs. Dow's at all-time highs. Not that that means all that much, but the S&P is. Mid caps are, small caps are, a lot of sectors are. And so at least in the short term, it doesn't, I mean, there's lots of reasons to be concerned, but right now, all of the data is pointing to the market moving higher, right?
AI boom looks early innings still.
Yeah.
And we have a couple other pieces. We were joking about this the other day. Think about if that large number, several trillions of dollars of foreign investment comes in, that would be a nice boon.
Yeah.
To keep the economy going. Maybe there's some wealth effect. Not only do we have trillions of dollars in money markets that could come in if rates go lower upon these rate cuts that we expect, wealth effect from stock market at all-time highs. And then additionally, maybe we can get some money out of our houses because it's been locked up there, appreciated homes. We've talked about that at length, how it's kind of stalled out, and it's getting a little cooler in the existing sales arena. But there's a lot of
rates are coming down.
Yeah, they are coming down. But there's a lot of money in appreciated houses. I know I refied in 2021, and I'm not going to move anytime soon because of the rate I got. But there's other people who may be itching to get some money out of their home, maybe do some additions or something like that, some more money that could maybe come into the system.
So the average 10-year was close to 7.3 at one point 2 years ago. And we're at 6.3 today. I guess my thought would be when it starts with a 5, right? When you get a 5 handle on a 30-year mortgage, it starts to be tenable and people start thinking about moving again.
Yeah.
Even if you have a lower rate, I mean, you have a 3.5 and, you go to a 5.75, it's a big difference. But if you've been waiting and chomping at the bit to move out of your house or to get something bigger, not necessarily to move to another state. Most of those people probably did that. But you start getting into that mid 5 range or upper end 5s and people will start to move.
Yeah, I'll come back to life a little bit.
Move again. Yeah, no question about it. All right, well, that's where we'll end it here today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Comments, questions, please send them in to us at Market Enthusiast at goodlifefa.com. For everybody at Good Life, I'm Noah Brooks and Chris Needs. Don't bet against America, anybody. See you next time.
The opinions voiced in this podcast are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a decision. Economic forecasts set forth may not develop as predicted, and there can be no guarantee that strategies promoted will be successful. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly.